So let's talk about WandaVision episode 4. This was probably one of my favorite episodes so far because I was far more invested than I've been, because I sort of understood the stakes, I understood what was not going on, I understood the character motivations, and so forth. I think this corrects a lot of things. I think it does a lot of things great, but it also shows the weaknesses of this show in terms of doing things in this episode that were cool for the Marvel Universe, but if we really think about it for the show, like, I don't know what you're doing with that. So, the opening where we see Rambo, which is not spelled like Rambo, the Rambo, probably for legal reasons, where you see that she comes back from the blink or what, the snap or whatever we're calling it. And that's interesting and that's really cool. And by the way, Marvel could make a whole movie about suddenly coming back and waking up, realizing it's been 5 years through the snap, and I think that could be a great thing. But I feel like the thing with this episode is the idea of sort of understanding where she's coming from. You sort of get, her from Captain Marvel. She's the little girl in Captain Marvel, and her understanding, like, going into Westview in New Jersey. You don't really understand fully, like, why that town. That Wanda is in Westview, but you don't really understand exactly why. You do know the little hanging chat of this is someone in witness protection who is in that town, and that's how they sort of found out about that, and that's sort of an interesting thing. I sort of think Catherine Hahn might be that, but we don't know. All the things they do with this episode, in particular, like understanding like what's going on, why the military's involved, getting Kat Denning there, like seeing that like they can pick up the signal of the sitcom, that certain things are being cut out, that we're pretty sure whatever it is, Wanda is in charge of it. You kind of get certain things explained to you. But I still think, even though I like everything, I actually like Kat Dennings in this. I've never liked Kat Dennings in the Thor movies, but I actually like her in this a lot. And she plays it very well. It's like you can tell she's much more well-trained kind of sitcom actress, especially working with Randall Park, who is also a well-trained sitcom actor, which is interesting. You have two modern sitcom actors not in the sitcom, but whatever. I feel like as much as they answer like where they are exactly, that it's this energy field, that things are happening, they still kind of, everyone outside is almost like the viewers of us. They're like, why are what's going on? Why is this a sitcom? Who's controlling it? Is Wanda in control? The decade thing, what's up with that? It's almost like they're sort of like having their cake and eating it too a lot with this. The issue with this show is kind of a storytelling thing where, granted, I will say this show is not completed. It's clearly like supposed to work as a whole piece, and we haven't seen the end of it. So it's almost unfair. It feels like, I don't agree with people who are like, well, you didn't get the show, you didn't like this one, so you don't get to like this one kind of crap, which I've seen a lot of. It's very immature and shouldn't really be critics. But I if you're doing things like this, it's just a little ridiculous. But my main thing still is like, they're like, everyone who works for Sword or Shield or whatever is like, why sitcoms? And we're, as an audience, everyone's like, because we grew up with sitcoms. But Wanda didn't. She grew up like as a weird medical experiment in a foreign country, which I don't even know like what sitcoms they got and stuff like that. And that is still something that's holding this show back and this episode back, because you're constantly questioning like, why exactly? Like, is there another villain? It looks like it's Wanda. I like that there's a thing of Image in there, which was really shocking. It looks like she's in control of it, but like, it brings up questions that this is unusual, that this happens very soon after Endgame is interesting. And it didn't feel like she was like breaking down emotionally, that you think she'd have this break in Westview and things like that. It kind of brings up a lot of questions, which I think the show isn't great at handling necessarily. I feel like they just leave these things dangling, but it's sort of, when it explained it more, it got me more into it. I wanted to go more into this mystery. I think this would have worked better if episode 3 almost hadn't happened. I think episode 3 kind of hurts the show. This should have probably been the third one. They kind of went on a tangent a little too long. It's not the Tice in terms of structure and storytelling and knowing what it's doing. And I think that's sort of hurting my enjoyment of the show, because it feels like something that should be a little more well written and understanding its mystery. And it feels like something that could completely veer off course, even though this was maybe narratively something the show really needed. It was probably not entirely what the show needed. And I wish there was like a thing about how Wanda didn't have parents, but viewed her parents through television, or being a parent or having a relationship or something like that. Right now, us as the audience is putting that on the show, not her the character, and that's a major writing problem. So I know I'm continuing on this beat with Wanda and not really knowing sitcoms, but it's just something that's really bothering me. There's a lot to do with Wandavision, but I hope I'm more hopeful about what's going on with Wandavision so far, but I am not 100% in love with it as much as everyone else, because I hope this narrative things kind of come together even more in the next episode, because they answered so many questions, they figured so many things out, but I still have the undenying question of how does this all entirely work, and why are we suddenly having this all rely on a character we know nothing about, is sort of the biggest sort of problem with this show. And I hope they're able to explain that in the next one maybe, but I don't see how that's going to work.